That's what everyone's chasing, the Sprint Cup Series Champions Trophy. The Sprint Cup Series headed out west to Fontana, California Sunday, where Jimmie Johnson had another golden moment in the Golden State.
Here they come. It'll be 3 to go as the green flag waves. Now, who can stand the throttle off of turn 2 is going to be the most important thing. Jimmie slides right up in front of him. Clear. Oh, yeah. Come on, baby. Give it 3 good laps. Jimmie Johnson just pulling away now. 10 car lengths over Jeff Gordon. Jimmie Johnson coming down out of turn 4. What a job they have done again. And for the 3rd year in a row in the fall, Jimmie Johnson wins at California. Nice job, guys. Hell yeah.
It was Jimmie Johnson's 3rd straight fall win at California and 2nd win in this year's chase. Jeff Gordon finishes runner-up, while Juan Pablo Montoya becomes the first driver in chase history to record top 5 finishes in each of the first 4 chase races. It's the first time since Darlington in May that the top 5 spots were occupied by a single manufacturer, that being Chevrolet. We'll break it all down for you next on the Monday Roundtable.
NASCAR Now is presented by The Home Depot.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to NASCAR Now. I'm Mike Massaro, sitting in for Alan Bestwick, who normally hosts the Roundtable, along with a esteemed panel of guests, Ray Evernham, Randy LaJoy, and Ricky Craven. And in honor of Alan, I want to do something he usually does, and of course that's a little show of the hands, if you will, guys. Raise your hand if you think this is now Jimmie Johnson's chase to lose. I think it's unanimous, folks. Jimmie Johnson, 3 championships in a row, and now on top of the championship standings once again. Man, he looks good. Let's take a look at how his day went on Sunday. Jimmie started 2nd and was first to take the lead as he passed Denny Hamlin on lap 11. Of course, Hamlin being the pole sitter. Jimmie Johnson, a little tough day in the pits, however. Lap 60, lost 6 spots due to a lug nut issue. He would eventually, however, regain the lead back on lap 115. Moving ahead, lap 118. Johnson had another slower stop and fell back all the way to 3rd. Pit issues throughout the course of the day for the 40-18. Lap 125, he retakes the lead yet again, passing Denny Hamlin, and would pull ahead by almost 8 seconds over 2nd place. Lap 190, leaders come down pit road, and Johnson once again falls back to 3rd after the pit stop. 7 laps to go. Johnson restarts on the inside and 2nd behind Jeff Gordon, who takes the outside. Gordon gets the early jump, but on the next lap, Johnson makes a diving move to pass for the lead. And restarts were fun at the end of this race. We were all paying very close attention to that. Another late race restart, 3 laps to go. This time Johnson gets the good jump on the inside lane and holds on to pick up the victory. And we'll see it here. He's on the inside trying to hold off Jeff Gordon door to door as they race down into turn number 1. He said he used a little bit of a safety lift, Ray. He told us that last night. Didn't look like it there. It looked like he was wide open. Jimmie Johnson up underneath. He picks up the victory. His 5th of the season, his 16th all-time in the chase. Just absolutely amazing. Jimmie Johnson moves into 2nd place on the Active Sprint Cup wins list with 45 overall, breaking a tie with Bill Elliott. Johnson has recorded those 45 wins at a considerably high rate, too. His .158 win percentage is the highest among all active drivers, including his teammate Jeff Gordon, who, as Marty Smith explains, is having a pretty tough time catching Jimmie.
Jeff Gordon finished 2nd Sunday at Auto Club Speedway, an effort that would typically leave any competitor content. Not Gordon, not now, not even. See, he finished 2nd to Jimmie Johnson, meaning he actually lost ground in the championship standings.
I mean, the only thing, you know, to me that's bittersweet is that we finished 2nd, and I felt like we were like in a 2nd-class category. You know, that's the only thing that bothers me a little bit right now is that, you know, we're just not good enough. You know, we're good, but we're not good enough. It's our teammate, but they're in another category.
With the win, Johnson, the 3-time defending NASCAR champion, took the points lead for the first time in the 2009 chase. No driver has ever won 4 consecutive titles.
They have something magical about the final 10 races. They're going to be hard to beat for this one. I think really, unless they make a mistake, I don't see how they lose it.
The last 3 years have been really special. Right now we're in a great position, but I mean it's way too early to start thinking about other things. I don't want to go there. I don't want to think about those things. You know, this week we're on top of the world, so it's a sport we call home is tough on us from time to time.
Johnson's dominance during the chase is legendary. 16 victories and 54 career starts. And it makes Gordon's plight all the more difficult. Gordon entered the weekend 103 points behind the leader and leaves 105 points back. We're doing everything we can to be good enough, he said, but it's just not there. At Auto Club Speedway, Marty Smith, ESPN.
Thank you, Marty. And for those guys chasing Jimmy right now, it has to be frustrating. What do you think it's like for those guys trying to track this guy down?
Frustrating. There's no question. You know, it's hard for these guys because in some cases they feel like they've done all they can do, and yet at the end Jimmy still drives away. And you know, the exception to that may be Juan Pablo Montoya, who's been outstanding this year. But as it relates to the 48 team, they're doing everything right. They don't make the big mistakes. They can recover from their small mistakes. And I'll tell you one dimension of this that I think is really important. When you win in the playoffs, you have a car that's proven. The confidence is built even higher. Here's a car that they can go back to later in the chase because you've got a fast horse in the stable.
Now, you talk a little bit about how fundamentally sound they are. Now, I know as we were watching the race yesterday, something that stood out were the pit stops. Anybody surprised by the mistakes we saw from the 48 team?
I think that they had a below-average day in the pits for them. I wasn't surprised. I know that they've made some changes in personnel. The key thing is that the team is so strong and the car was so fast they could come back from it. I think we calculated they lost approximately 14 spots under caution, but made that all up on the racetrack. So they'll sharpen that up. The changes that were made in personnel to make the pit stops better, but a little bit surprised. But if that's their only weakness, still going to be
still went to victory lane, right?
Well, one of the things that I've seen, I mean, Jimmy Johnson doesn't get upset. When he lost spots in the pits, it's no fun just hanging out there leading the whole race. He learned a lot on restarts, learned that the draft comes into effect, how much throttle you can use. He learned a lot for the end of the day. He didn't get upset. He didn't blow his cool. He learned a lot.
But Mike, to your point, the other teams notice this. When they see the 48 stumble a little bit, yet they still can't capitalize, that's part of that debilitating effect. You know, it's just frustrating. Maybe the 48 wasn't perfect, yet they still won, and that's what Ray said. You know, they still found a way to win.
Yeah. I think mentally, if you leave a place knowing, hey, if our car was a little bit tighter, or if we had a little better pit stop, or if I could have done this a little bit better, we could have beat them. But you could see in Jeff Gordon's face and hear in his voice, he felt like they ran to their best of their ability and just got beat. He said, we're just not good enough. That's hard to take.
All right, well, folks, we want to take a break here. Not a break, but we want to ask our audience their opinion. You saw us raise our hands at the beginning of the show, so you know kind of what we're thinking right now. But we have a poll out there on ESPN.com. We want to know who you think Jimmy's biggest threat for the 2009 championship is right now, whether it's Mark Martin, Juan Pablo Montoya, Tony Stewart, or Jeff Gordon. The results are coming later in the show. Still under the hood, not every chaser walked away from California with a golden feeling. We'll discuss the championship repercussions created by Sunday's late race incidents. And speaking of repercussions, see how a race in Kansas contributed to some California drama. We'll revisit the Greg Biffle-Joey Logano conflict. And what impact would Danica have on NASCAR? You might be surprised what one of the sport's most prominent figures had to say.
NASCAR Now, presented by The Home Depot. Visit HomeDepot.com. More saving, more doing. That's the power of The Home Depot.
Well, for much of the day, it looked like Denny Hamlin had a lot of potential until this happened on a restart. Was out front, came down the racetrack in front of Juan Pablo Montoya. And you saw the end result as he went through the grass. Afterwards, Hamlin took complete responsibility for what happened. He was not feeling good about the repercussions of this incident.
Just made a rookie mistake. I thought I was clear of the 42 and he was getting a run, and I think the 48 was pushing him and just came right across his nose. I thought I was clear and just misjudged it. But got to apologize to the team. They deserve better than that. They got me out front and just bad mistake.
And it was hard to believe that that happened when it did. Randy, what were your thoughts when you saw that transpire?
What are you thinking? He just killed
Joe Gibbs Racing's opportunity at a championship. Threw it away, cutting her across the nose of Juan Pablo. He said he made a rookie mistake. The kid's not a rookie.
A very talented driver. He's been in the chase each of the 4 years he's been in Sprint Cup, and it comes down to this. Denny Hamlin needs to learn to relax. The difference between being a chase contender and being a champion is relaxing. You make mistakes when you try too hard. He was trying too hard. That's all it comes down to.
Definitely not clear as he came across there, and agree with both of you. A, he's not a rookie. B, he was trying too hard. But it comes maybe from not running good and all of a sudden getting a chance to win a race, putting that pressure on to try and get out there, stay out front.
Here's a question. I have a curiosity, because I think maybe the 48 and their team does this to drivers. You know what I mean? That team puts pressure on.
Forces you to make a mistake.
Yeah, I think so.
You know, something that stood out for me, and I think it stood out for a lot of viewers out there, was the way that Denny took responsibility. I mean, it showed a very mature side of him. Yeah. What do you guys think?
Absolutely, but it was on TV in front of millions of people. There was really no fault there, and couldn't have expected Juan Pablo to back off, because with Jimmy pushing the 48, pushing the 42, Juan Pablo couldn't have backed off if he wanted to.
That's true. Hey, Denny Hamlin wasn't the only one involved in a late race skirmish, if you will. On lap 239, there was another one, and it involved several chasers. Kurt Busch smacks the wall, takes out a couple of the other chasers in the process as he gets a little bit loose, hits Casey Kane. Casey Kane comes down the racetrack and collects Greg Biffle, both of them through the infield grass. Severe damage, not only to the race cars, but to their chase chances as well. What was your interpretation of what happened there?
Well, the drivers might have to help me out on this, but as I was listening to the in-car camera there, and I always kid him about having, well, can we listen to that?
Yeah, I think we can.
I've always kid him about having pedals. If you listen, he gets up there, he's sideways. Back on the gas wide open. I don't know, guys. I felt like that was kind of aggressive. Maybe if you'd lifted off there a little bit, it might not have caused that wreck.
Yeah, you're thinking too much, okay? Honestly, drivers have a hard drive, and it's years of experience, and they do it instinctively. And I think that he was trying to do two things. He was trying to keep it off the wall, and then he was also trying to prevent getting run over. You got to remember, they're stacked up 3 wide behind him, and I'm defending him, and it's not easy here because it's pretty ugly. But he's going to get run over if he rolls out too quick.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, we just seen Casey Kane behind him. He had a missed, but he bounced off the fence. And you know what? It's something that this day and age drivers don't do enough, and that's lift. I mean, they're getting ready to go to Talladega. These guys are running over each other. We see it later in the race. Guys just run over each other. These cars are too easy to bump draft. And I don't know, sometimes you have to lift and use a little bit of smarts.
And that was just the beginning of the end for Casey Kane. Had another incident not too long after that, lap 244. Gets involved in a big one, not this one, but there was a very big altercation which collected Casey Kane. You can see here getting into the back of Jeff Burton. This one collected several cars, including Dale Earnhardt Jr. Afterwards, Casey Kane noticeably frustrated, as you can hear it in his voice and in his words.
We worked hard all day, got ourselves in a good position. Some guys had an issue. I can't see that with the sun in my eyes, but some guys had issues. I think it was going to be a good points day, and NASCAR threw a debris caution for no debris, which caused Kurt Busch to hit the wall and screw up, which caused me to go to the grass and Greg Biffle, and then from there, that caused the whole next wreck on the front stretch. So it's disappointing we had a bad race because of kind of a caution to put a show on for the fans. I mean, that's a good part of this sport, is we got to keep the fans excited, but sometimes it ruins people's day, and today it was our day, so maybe next time it won't be.
Now, when your day ends that way, you can understand the frustration, but those comments, they were pretty pointed. What did you guys make of them?
I think it's consistent with race car drivers that had a bad day and had something taken away from them, and it's no different than football. The players never agree if they're on the bad side of a pass interference or a foul in the NBA, and NASCAR has rules. They handle things the way they handle them, and it's up to the drivers, and I'm going to go back to Ray's point, to manage the pedals. I mean, all these guys can, these restarts are a component of Sprint Cup Series racing. So you can be critical after your wreck, but they all control this, just like Talladega and Daytona. We all fuss after the Talladega Daytona races, but the drivers cause the wrecks. So I have a hard time buying into that.
Legitimate, right?
It's a tough call. As you watch the race, you have to understand that NASCAR goes after safety first. And the incident that Casey is talking about, we watched the race yesterday. There was something on the track. It was in the groove. Might only been a piece of tape. Might have been rubber. I don't know. We can't make that call. Safety's got to be NASCAR's first concern. I understand Casey's been upset, but again, I agree with NASCAR from the safety side.
If that was a piece of metal at 204 miles an hour, we've seen these guys entering the corner at 204 miles an hour. They don't know it's a piece of tape. I mean, there's a lot of times NASCAR throws cautions. People's like, they shouldn't do that. But if you hit that with the right front tire and you hit the fence, you'll say, what happened? Why the guys didn't throw the caution?
Still, public criticism of NASCAR, not always looked upon lightly. So we'll have to see if there's any backlash.
When he walks by the truck at Saturday night at Charlotte, he might get the...
Have you seen that before?
A couple times, unfortunately. Yeah.
I think Biffle's seen that Saturday night.
It's better than seeing this.
Well, we need to see this because we need to take a break. Still ahead, talk about clutch. With his victory Sunday, Jimmie Johnson now has 16 chase race wins. We'll discuss why he's so dominant this time of year. And what about the guys chasing the 48? Mark Martin, Juan Pablo Montoya, Tony Stewart, and Jeff Gordon. We'll talk about them.
Welcome back to NASCAR Now, presented by the Home Depot.
It's an incredibly tight chase developing, and Mark Martin is one of the guys putting pressure on Jimmie Johnson. Led 5 laps, ended up finishing 4th, but in the process dropped from the first position in the standings all the way to 2nd, but only 12 points back. Juan Pablo Montoya had a very strong car on Sunday. Led 7 times for 78 laps, finishing 3rd, remaining 3rd in the standings, 58 points back, and certainly has been a surprise, but keeps on getting it done. This guy, not a surprise, Tony Stewart, had a little problem, though, on Sunday, speeding on pit road, and it made things a little bit more difficult, felt a lap down. However, he did recover to finish 5th, now 4th in the standings. Jeff Gordon, another strong run, was in contention for the win, but ultimately lost a duel with Jimmie Johnson and finished 2nd, now 5th in the standings, 105 points back.
Right now, the only frustration I have is the first 2 races that we had, we didn't get the finishes that I feel like we were capable of. We're definitely behind. I mean, if it takes a 3rd place average finish over 10 races, then no, we're not going to win it this year.
We're doing our best. We're enjoying ourselves and we're racing hard. We got great race cars. There were 400 or 500 cars and us racing today in the front. So to be able to do that is huge. If it's good enough, it's great. If it's not, well, move on. Because there's another year.
Just a long day for sure. I mean, we got a couple really lucky breaks that helped us there at the end, getting us back on the lead lap. And when we were in pit lane there and got the caution set, got us a little bit of that track position back. We had a good enough car to get back. We just fought. We could not get going at the beginning of a run for anything. It took us 6 or 8 laps to get going every time.
We made progress with the race car, and there was a time when we could go out front, but we were right there. I'm just proud. I couldn't be more thrilled to be driving that 5 car.
Jimmie is now your championship leader, holds the advantage by a mere 12 points over Mark Martin. Johnson also led the points last season after the first 4 chase races. Juan Pablo Montoya continues to run up front, another top 5 finish, but loses a little ground to the chase lead, now 58 points back. Jeff Gordon and Carl Edwards, the big gainers, both up 2 spots, while Denny Hamlin loses 3 positions. And guys, these drivers still very much within striking distance. They're putting up some pretty big numbers, but is it enough to catch Jimmie?
Well, I mean, the top 5 guys finished in the top 5 at California. So, yeah, they're doing their job. What you got to wonder is how does Jimmie's performance affect these guys going forward, Because if you try to up your game and if you try to take more than what's there, that's when you get into trouble. And I'm not just talking about the drivers. I'm talking about the crew members. And, just one mistake, either on pit road or on the racetrack, might be the end of the chase.
Who do you guys think presents the biggest threat to Jimmie? Any ideas?
I'm going to stick with Mark Martin. Mark has done a phenomenal job with that 5 team. That race team has done wonders this year with Mark. They've won races. They are consistently in the front. Chad and Jimmie got them by 5 years. These guys have been together 5 years. And these guys, Mark and Alan's only been together 9 months. And these guys are competitive every week. Juan Pablo and Brian Petty, they play golf together. They tussle on the radios. it is going to be very interesting to see.
Now, Ray, I know we were talking a little bit, we had a little downtime yesterday. We were talking about this very subject, and it was tough to come up with anybody. I mean, it seems like it's pretty evenly matched.
Yeah, you and I had to kind of smack producer Jeff around and tell him we just weren't going to pick somebody because it's almost impossible to pick. You know, take Jimmy Johnson and the 48 team out, and I could not begin to tell you who would win this championship. There's a blanket over those other 4 cars. You're looking at guys that are capable of leading races, finishing in the top 5, sitting on poles, and Jimmy Johnson just continues to keep walking away from him.
You know what's interesting, guys, is with Mark Martin, Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon, we all know what we have. And I think to some degree, Chad Canales and Jimmy Johnson know what they're up against. I think the wild card in this has to be Juan Pablo Montoya, not only in the fact that he's the only driver with 4 top 5s, but that this guy really doesn't care. And I think he and the team don't know any better. You know, and that's not derogatory, as bad as it sounds. What I mean is, what do these guys have to lose? And they act like it on the racetrack. I think as this goes along, if they continue to be a contender and put these top 5s up, I think he's going to win. That's obvious. But I also think he just doesn't care, and he could be, you know, a lightning bolt in this chase.
Wild card. I love that term. You know what another wild card is? Talladega. Coming up, Carl Edwards' Talladega crash was one of the most memorable moments of 2009. But we'll explain why the next time the series visits Talladega, things will be a little bit different. And it's that time of year, time for the 48 to shine. We'll hear from Sunday's winner as Jimmy Johnson explains how he got the job done in California.
The spotlight in the chase for the Sprint Cup shines on a new venue today. A schedule shuffle made the Auto Club Speedway of Southern California one of the final 10 races and brings the championship to a very fast stage. Who'll be the hero? Who'll be the villain? Will there be an unexpected twist of plot? This chase is the closest ever at this point.
Wheels starting to roll. Check your belts one more time. Pace car is at. You ready? Be ready. Green flag.
Looks like Harvin got up against the wall a little bit. Man, everybody's touching that wall.
There's a new leader in the Pepsi 500, Juan Pablo Montoya.
We're going to be there all the way. Clear. New leader.
Caution flag flying right now.
Hit this time. 4, 3, 2, 1, stop. Perfect.
Watch the lug nut issue here on the 48. Right here, dropping nut on the right front. Very atypical for that team.
The race off pit road, well, it's going to be Juan Pablo Montoya.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Moose off. Dude, I'm afraid. I'm honestly afraid.
The tail is going in the wrong direction. Juan Pablo giving it a run.
Thunder when I get on the gas. I mean, it just snaps when I get on the gas. Okay, so just go like hell. Copy, go like hell.
Denny Hamlin running well today. Contact. Juan Pablo on the inside lane. Denny crossed over. Bends to the infield grass.
It's the 4th race in the chase, and it has taken a bad turn for Denny Hamlin.
Oh, trouble. Oh, there's Casey Kane across, and he takes Biffle with him.
Extra hose is not going to get on the tire, right? Ain't got a fender brace broke on.
Oh, trouble on the main straightaway. 2, 3, 4 cars get together as the crashing continues in turn 1.
Get low. Come to the middle, right where you're at. Keep coming straight. Caution. Lots of debris.
Jimmy Johnson, a 4-time winner here. Jeff Gordon, a 3-time winner here. Who's it going to be? Teammate.
Man, you're better than him, buddy. You're better than him. You're catching him. This is going to be a shootout. You're the best here, man. You know how to do it.
Here they come. It'll be 3 to go as the green flag waves.
Come on, baby. Give me 3 good laps.
Yeah, who can stay in the throttle off of turn 2 is going to be the most important thing. Jimmy slides right up in front of Jeff Gordon.
Good job, dude. Check out, man.
For the 3rd year in a row in the fall, Jimmy Johnson wins at California.
Oh! Nice job, guys. Hell yeah. You are the man, Johnson. You are the man.
What a chase history Jimmy Johnson has. The inaugural season, Johnson notched 4 wins, including 3 straight in October. Still ended up 8 points shy of the title Kurt Busch won. 2005, He won 2 races, including a win at Dover that gave him the points lead. He, however, would finish 5th overall. 2006, though, things changed. Johnson started slow, rallied, however, finishing 2nd or better in 5 of the last 6 races to capture his first championship. 4 consecutive wins during the chase, starting with the fall race at Martinsville, highlighted Johnson's 2nd straight championship campaign in 2007. And last season, Johnson entered the chase 3rd in the standings, but won 3 races, becoming just the 2nd driver ever to win 3 straight Sprint Cup Series championships. Jimmie Johnson's 2 wins in this year's chase lead all drivers, as well as his 464 laps led. No other driver has led more than 200 laps through 4 races. Johnson's 3 top 5s are tied for 2nd most, while his 3.8 average finish is behind only Mark Martin and Juan Pablo Montoya. Joining us now is the current championship leader and most recent winner on the Sprint Cup Series. That, of course, being Jimmie Johnson. Jimmie, thanks for being with us. How would you compare the way this chase is going right now to the last 3?
Wow, they're totally different. That question's been asked a lot, and I keep trying to think of a good answer, but I know it's different. It sure seems different. I think it seems more competitive than what we've kind of seen in the past, meaning more guys that are there every single week. And even winning the race, I look in the mirror, and everybody behind me is right there in the chase. So it's really competitive, and we're going to have to earn every point, every lap, every race. So we'll just have to stay on top of things.
Jimmie, this is Ray Evernham again, and hey, first I want to say, man, you're on this show more than I am, and go easy now because I need this job. You know what I'm saying? But appreciate your time again, as always. You're always gracious. Charlotte's been really good to you. 5 wins there, but you've been shut out the last 5. What's it going to take Saturday night to turn that around?
Need to beat that 9 car somehow. The track's different since it's been repaved, and we've been competitive, but not a dominant car like we saw with the old surface. But I think we're a lot smarter this year, and I think what we've learned on the 1.5-mile tracks here of late, and even at a place like Dover, will really carry over and help us out. So I'm excited, I'm optimistic, and I certainly feel good about a solid night for the points. And hopefully we can pull in the victory lane again.
Okay, Jimmie, Randy LaJoie, congratulations, not only for the race team, but, the Jimmie Johnson Foundation had a great week like last week, too. What'd you do all last week for the Jimmie Johnson Foundation?
Man, what a week. We were able to go to the homes that we built with Habitat for Humanity and see all 4 homes completed. We have 3 families in the homes now, and 1 we're still looking for, to put somebody in that home. We had our fundraiser, a dinner on Tuesday night, a golf tournament on Wednesday, raised over $500,000 that will go back into the San Diego area with an educational grant program that we're doing that really parallels Lowe's Toolbox for kids education program. So it's a great thing. I'm so thankful that the fans, our sponsors, and everybody was there to support us and help us raise all the money. And then the kicker at the end was the fact Lowe's let us have the paint scheme on the car and make it a foundation car, and brought us great luck once again.
Hey, Jimmie, Ricky Craven, congratulations on the weekend.
Thank you, bud.
Jimmie, part of the entertainment for us viewers now is the double file shootout style restarts, and it was really entertaining at the end of last week's race. Can you describe to us the little bit of poker that was going on maybe, or your thoughts choosing the inside or the outside lane with teammate Jeff Gordon, and just what your thoughts were under the red flag, thinking about what might happen here in the last few laps?
Man, I was wishing I didn't have to think that hard or worry about that much. The restarts are such a handful anymore, and really at a track where you have such a long front straightaway and acceleration area, you can't control where you're going to end up as the leader, or on the front row for that matter, and so much depends on the guys behind you. And it's as if you're on a plate track, and the guys behind you, if they get a good start, that means you're going to be leading into the first turn. If they get a poor start and you get some bump drafting and some help down the straightaway, you're going to be second or third for that matter. So it's really tough to control your own destiny. I know it makes it very exciting for the fans, but inside the car, I knew I had the best car and was doing a great job all day, but I didn't know if I'd come out of turn 2 in the lead, and I really needed to be leading with the green-white checkered at the end.
All right, Jimmie, just to wrap this up, we've been trying to break this chase down, and the way it's developing, it's turning out to be one of the most competitive chases in history. When you look at the guys who are right behind you, guys like Mark Martin, Juan Pablo Montoya, Jeff Gordon, which one of those guys do you think presents the biggest threat to you as you go for this 4th consecutive title?
know, I look at them all, and I hate to give you a corny answer, but when I look at each race in the chase so far, everybody has shown strength at different times. And you know, for some people may have thought the 14 wasn't close enough to be competitive before Kansas. He wins, boom, he's right back in it. That 5 is there every week. The 42 is there every week. 24, you know, has 2 second-place finishes right now. I'm worried about everybody. Right now, it is really competitive, and everybody is running at the top of their game.
Well, Jimmy, we appreciate your time. And by the way, none of us can figure out who's your biggest threat either. So thanks for being with us.
My blinders on. I'm worrying about what this 48 car needs to do. And I feel confident if we do our jobs, we'll be happy with the results.
Well, it has worked for you in the past, and no reason for you to change that formula. Thanks, Jimmy.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Still ahead, there was plenty of drama and conflict in Saturday's nationwide race. We'll revisit the incidents and tell you who's right and who's wrong. And certain drivers' Hall of Fame credentials can't be denied. Many consider Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt locks, but who might join them?
This is NASCAR Now, presented by the Home Depot.
Be sure to join us at 4 p.m. on ESPN News Wednesday for the historical announcement made by the NASCAR Hall of Fame Committee as to who will go in as the first class of the Hall of Fame. That is at 4 p.m. on Wednesday on ESPN News. Brad Doherty and I will have the information for you. You won't want to miss it. And guys, as we talk a little bit about the Hall of Fame, we're contemplating who will go in, who won't go in. There are 25 original nominees. Now, certainly all of them will eventually go in, but only 5 can go in the first class. Now, guys like Bill France Sr., Bill France Jr., Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt, a lot of people think they're locks, but there's a lot of debate going on right now as to who might be the 5th. Make an argument right now for somebody to be the 5th.
Well, I didn't know that Ricky wasn't in the first class, so I've had to change my thing. I think it should be Red Byron. Red Byron won the first NASCAR race. He won the first championship. The man should go down in history. I think he should be in the first class.
I'm going to go with Richie Evans. Richie Evans is the modified champion 9 times, 8 in a row. The modifieds are the oldest division that's in NASCAR's history. Richie Evans deserves it. He raced Jeff Bodine, Ronnie Bouchard, Bugsy Stevens, Freddie DeZero, Don LaJoie. You know, I mean, it was amazing to see what Richie did, and to see him on that board. He needs to go in the Hall.
Maybe we'll get elected together. I just believe that this should be a car owner. You know, there's 5 car owners, at least 5 car owners that are nominated. And you know, Rick Hendrick, because I'm closest to him, I know more about him than the other owners. But pick any one of these car owners. Bud Moore, Richard Childress, Junior Johnson. I mean, every one of them are compelling stories. I just believe that the car owners do so much for the sport, and they're the foundation of the business, and that one of them deserves to be in that first vote.
I like Richie Evans, too, but I don't think he's a first ballot candidate. But I'm a modified guy. And as far as you guys, I know you'll eventually be in. I mean, you've won a lot of championships as a crew chief. You won the closest race in history.
How did we get on
But you're going to have to wait. You're going to have to wait a while. All right, we need to move on here to another potential Hall of Famer someday in the world of motorsports, no question about it. Since it was reported last month that Danica Patrick is considering an experimental stock car schedule in 2010, the questions have begun to swirl. Who will she join? When will her debut be? And when can we expect to see her? Another interesting question was also asked Sunday.
How important is Danica Patrick to the future of our sport?
Careful.
I don't. I don't think it's. I don't think she's important to the future of our sport. I mean, she would add a new dimension maybe if she participated in Nationwide Series or the Cup Series one day, but you know, I don't think it's going to make any difference in where NASCAR is.
Are there any other questions in the Terrace press box?
One more question.
Go ahead.
I'm not really sure what to make of Rick Hendrick's reaction there at the end of the question. How about you guys? If you were presented with that same question, which I'm going to present you with right now, I want to know what you'd say. What impact do you think Danica would have on NASCAR?
I think I'd answer it exactly the way Rick did. I don't think Rick was being derogatory, but you know, NASCAR is a great organization, and I think he was being fair with Danica. But I think, you know, that reaction at the end was probably turning around saying that was a dumb question, because in reality, one person can't have, and I've been told this time and time again, an organization so big, so powerful, and what's going on with NASCAR, one person's not going to make a difference. So I don't feel like Rick was being derogatory to Danica in any way.
It was about a month and a half ago. Danica showed up at the shop. She goes, Randy, I need you to build me a seat. I built the one about 10 years ago, and she come in and we built her a seat. Now we just got to get it paid for. But she don't know where she's going yet, but she does want to try NASCAR. She just signed with JGR again, AGR again, so she has a great IndyCar program. But boy, this is not easy.
I think that's part of the problem. Okay, and that, you know, I think it rubs these owners like Rick Hendrick the wrong way to think that she's going to come in part-time. You know, make up your mind, be 100% at whatever you do, whether it's open wheel or NASCAR, but don't split your time. It's not a 50-50 job here.
All right, so much drama, so much anticipation, yet we've got to move on with the show. And the next topic, of course, being Talladega. Carl Edwards' horrific Talladega crash this spring has led to much debate and inspired change. Talladega has modified the design of its catch fence, and NASCAR has informed teams they will reduce the size of the restrictor plate by a 64th of an inch. And, of course, that leaves a lot of questions heading into Talladega, guys. What effect do you think this smaller plate will have on the racing?
I don't think it's going to have a big effect on the racing. I think that you're still going to see the big packs, the bump drafting. You probably even see the big wreck. It'd just be a little bit slower. Should knock the speeds down 4 or 5 miles an hour. It's about keeping the cars on the ground. I don't know that there's any way to change the restrictor plate racing, since it's always been that way, but we've got to keep the cars on the ground, keep the drivers and the fans safe. I do think that you might even see a little bit more crashing and banging, because as you take that power away, there's not enough speed to recover. The guys are going to have to not lift off the gas.
I'm surprised they did this a week and a half early. Last time they did it, they told you guys at the drivers' meeting, you know, and you guys, there's a lot of guys that were mad about this. So now all the engine shops, the R&D shop in NASCAR knows exactly how much horsepower it did. Now, from now on, these guys are going to be working 24/7 to get that horsepower back. It costs the race teams a lot of money, what they just did.
I'm just going to go back to my earlier comments in the show. Drivers control how these things end. And, you know, taking away horsepower, I think that's a challenge. I really do. There's already the bump drafting. I sort of call it magnetic drafting at Talladega because it's so smooth. These guys just push all the way through the corner. I don't know how that ends. But if you encourage the drivers to do that, I don't know.
Well,
choice, 3 pedals.
Yeah.
3 pedals.
They are
and
an option.
drivers, 3
higher
pedals.
fence, too.
They are an option, but I tell you that, and I've said this before, drivers become very narrow-minded.
8-1.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, I think all of us are in concurrence. It's going to be an exciting race. Still to come, there was a little beating, banging, driver changing, even some late race crashing. Saturday's nationwide race left us with plenty to talk about. And as if things weren't going well enough for Jimmy Johnson, he now heads to a track where he has 5 wins. We'll discuss what to expect in Charlotte. Monday Night Football comes at you tonight with an AFC East matchup between the New York Jets and Miami Dolphins. The Jets try to capitalize on the Patriots' loss Sunday and retake sole possession of the division lead. Monday Night Countdown starts at 7 p.m., served to you by Applebee's.
Jimmy Johnson. But Jimmy Johnson, Jimmy Johnson, Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson wins his 2nd straight Coke 600.
He's not going to be able to do it, I don't think. They're side by side.
Here he comes.
Jimmy Johnson got it in the 48 car. He did it. 3 in a row, Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson, 4 in a row at Lowe's.
In the span of 6 races at Lowe's between 2003 and 2005, Jimmy Johnson reeled off 5 wins and a 3rd-place finish in the remaining race. But since the track was repaved early in 2006, Johnson has found less success. In 7 races since, he has no wins and is averaging a 12th-place finish. Well, guys, it seems like there's 2 different 48 teams when it comes to the Lowe's Motor Speedway. One pre-retrack paving and one post. Which 48 team do you expect to show up this week?
I expect the same 48 team that we saw this week. And one of the things that we've got to remember that those numbers don't really show there. There were a couple crashes and maybe an engine problem there to bring that average down. I think that Jimmy ran really good at most of those races. Maybe had a couple that weren't winning performances, but still some issues brought him down. I think they'll be on track this weekend.
Yeah, I just go back to last week, and Jimmy Johnson was so good through the middle of the racetrack out in California in turns 3 and 4. The preferred groove at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, Lowe's Motor Speedway, is through the middle of the corner and not on the bottom necessarily. And so I think he's going to be just fine.
Yeah, I don't believe those numbers add up a whole lot. You know, Jimmy has led still 385 laps in the last 3 races there, so he's led a lot of laps. You know, so that means he must be due for a win.
But does his stats at Lowe's Motor Speedway, the fact that he was so dominant there for a long period of time, how much do you think that gets in his competitors' heads right now?
It definitely sets expectations. When you look at, that first 6, no matter what, those guys aren't looking at the last 5. They're going, oh, my God, he's won, 5 times there and all the laps. He's still the guy to beat. Again, we've heard those guys say, I'm doing all I can do, and he's still beating me.
Frustrating.
That's a house that Jeff Gordon built. I mean, Jeff Gordon won every
90s?
race there for. That's right.
And I think that's a dimension also is that there's less testing. And it was so important to run good at Charlotte, wasn't it? And testing was such an important part of it. But these guys are a little bit, they have less to go off of when they get there. And qualifying, as always, will be important.
Yep, it will be. And certainly going to be an interesting race as the chase hits its midway point in Charlotte this coming week. Straight ahead, with lots of mid-race contact, we'll discuss why tempers were flaring after Saturday's nationwide race. That's coming up next.
NASCAR Now, presented by the Home Depot. Visit HomeDepot.com. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot.
So many storylines in Saturday's nationwide race. Kyle Busch feeling very much under the weather with strep throat before the race and contemplating getting out of the car. Team already had a plan in place, and that was to put Denny Hamlin in the car at the first pit stop. Let's flash back. Denny Hamlin had done it before, guys. 2007, Milwaukee, flew in, got there a little bit late, relieved Eric Almirola, drove the car to victory lane. Almirola did get credited for the victory, although Hamlin drove the majority of that race. Could it happen again? We'll have to pay attention. Lap 3, well, that's when the race began, and the Joe Gibbs Racing cars did look strong, guys. Ray? Yeah. Side by side, you can see that the 18 and 20 looked very strong early in that race.
Absolutely.
Here comes the driver change, and walk me through this, Ray. As a crew chief, what do you have to make sure happens here?
Making sure he's getting unbuckled, get that window net down, get all your stuff unplugged so the guys can get you out. You've got to get the other driver in, get his Hans, get his belts up. NASCAR watches you as he leaves pit road. He's got to have all that stuff buckled up.
He did a great job. Got off pit road. They did not lose a lap. This was some other drama, guys. Greg Biffle, Joey Logano getting together. Logano getting to the wall and not too happy.
He said he was going to do it on the radio. Think he'd actually do it. Put me in the wall. Hit my left front fender and put me in the wall. Yeah, he got on the radio and said he hopes we better have dollies here.
Obviously, Joey Logano not too happy. Looked pretty much intentional. Let's fast forward to the end. More problems for the Gibbs car. This one being the 18. Denny Hamlin in the car. Keselowski came up the racetrack. Hamlin went toward the wall, took Greg Biffle with him, and ended his day. Now here's the restart, and Joey Logano recovering from that fender damage, getting a great restart there. Keselowski and Carl Edwards not so lucky getting into each other, allowing the 20 car to get away. Logano cruises across the start-finish, takes the checkers for the second consecutive week in the nationwide suit.
I didn't think we had a shot at it after Biffle decided to put us in the wall. Apparently, I think the only way he thought he can beat us, but you can't put this 20 team down. I can tell you what, we never quit, kept digging all day.
The thing is, I think he's got amnesia. He forgets last week that he drove the car down in the corner 3 wide at Kansas to smash my left front fender in when I was running second, and I fell all the way back. I didn't have a chance to come in the pits and fix it because it was the last run of the day. So I was just running him a little bit tight down the back stretch. If he's going to race me like that, I'll race him like that. So I'm not sure. What comes around goes around in this sport, I think.
That was the most fun race I ever had in my life. I went to the point that I don't have a shot at this. I'm trying to salvage a top 10 out of it to bring it home a W.
Big points day for Carl Edwards. He gains 90 points on leader Kyle Busch, the most points he's gained in one race on him since Bristol mid-August. Edwards is now 155 points back with 5 races remaining. Including that Bristol race, Edwards has not finished worse than 7th in any of his last 7 nationwide contests. And guys, we should also add, as a result of the confrontation between Greg Biffle and Joey Logano, well, it spilled over into post-race. Joey Logano's father actually had some discussion, I should say, for the lack of a better word, I guess, with Joey's father. Joey's father had a discussion with Greg Biffle after the race. Now, Randy, I know you spoke with Tom Logano about what happened. What can you tell us?
Well, I talked to Tom this morning, and he says, he talked to Biffle. Biffle called him, and he apologized. He says, but he went to the car. He was going to victory lane, and he says he walked by the car, and he looked in the car. He goes, listen. He goes, Greg, you raise dogs. I raised 2 kids. Don't hurt my kids on a racetrack. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if he woke up with a dog's head on his pillow this morning. But that's just something, as a father that my son races, you never want to get what happens on the racetrack, you want the drivers to take care of. But it just, father emotion kicked in, and he just told him what he thought, I guess.
Now, evidently, NASCAR frowned upon this and took away Tom Logano's hard card, at least temporarily. So they're not looking on it too fondly. Guys, what do you make of this whole situation?
I'll tell you, there's not a father out there that wouldn't have the same emotion. So I'm not applauding it, and I'm certainly, the fact is that the young man has to fight his own battles. But if I were in the same situation, I'd have the same reaction. Having said that, that I've seen this over and over. As young, talented drivers come in, they meet some resistance from veterans that think maybe they did them a little bit bad or didn't respect them. And I can give you countless examples. Ray, we talked about it at lunchtime. It happens over and over again.
Well, guys, Greg Biffle, when he was asked about it, he said, well, it started a week earlier in Kansas. And there's what happened. You can see that the 16 and the 20 car do get together. What's your interpretation of what happened there?
It's real simple. If that was Tony Stewart, it goes on, and then they race again the next week. But it's a young man that Greg Biffle apparently doesn't think respects him. So he took it into his own hands and said, hey, I'll teach you. And that's how it goes.
Anything wrong with that?
No, well, I think that probably if Greg Biffle had looked at that like we did, I don't think Joey did anything wrong there. I mean, honestly, I really don't. And it was a racing accident. But again, I agree with what Ricky says. When these young guys come in, sometimes the older guys want to say, look, treat me with respect, and if there's a question of respect, what Joey did, I believe, to Greg was not intentional, and obviously what Greg did to Joey was intentional, but again, it wasn't a big issue, no harm, no foul, a little bit of respect.
Well, we can all hope that it is over with. I mean, it seems like the score is pretty even. We'll pay very close attention to it. Hey, at the beginning of the show, we asked you, the audience, for your opinion on who you thought presented the biggest threat to Jimmy Johnson. Here's the results. The majority feels Mark Martin presents the biggest threat, 46.1%. Well, the audience has spoken, guys. We couldn't figure it out, but they have. Mark Martin is the guy that can challenge Jimmy Johnson. Well, guys, thanks for joining us tonight. Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I don't expect it to be put into the Hall of Fame. I do expect Ray to get in there. But sorry, Ray. Don't be disappointed.
Absolutely. Just having a little fun. Watch for great side-by-side, high-speed racing, Lowe's under the lights this week. I think it's going to be a good race.
My mom's 70th birthday. Love you, Mom.
All right, guys. Appreciate you being with us. Folks, we hope you'll join us on Tuesday. A very special show in store. We'll be back on air at 5 p.m. Good night.